Is everyone happy after some technical difficulties?
Speaking of technical difficulties, the controller is not working again.
It's strange, but it's war vaguely, right?
War never changes.
War is frequently something that stays exactly the same, you know, from Marathon to Waterloo. Nothing changed whatsoever.
Yeah.
Everyone used the same, spears and swords. Napoleon famously killed by a gladius. That would have been a lot cooler, I think, if the Napoleonic era had been fought with sword and board. I would have watched. I think that would have been just badass.
Yeah, that would have been something.
Yeah, it would have. Ratman1819 says the best part of Mondays is you first go shoot guns, then you got to watch 1 to 2 madmen scream about a Japanese movie director. Well, that's very polite, thank you. We're all mad here.
And that's just the way of the world.
That's the way the cookie crumbles.
What? Right.
Oh, wow.
Now we're developing the Charlie G.
Yeah. The old chicken shucker. The Gustav. The goose tube. I had to explain to somebody as they were writing a piece of fiction. They were like, recoilless rifles are okay to shoot indoors, right? And I was like, well, all right. Just because it says it is on the box. Like, you know how you go to the store?
It says it's not deadly. It does not say
yeah,
it's safe.
Right. Exactly. It's like you go to the store and there's the thing where it says, like, this is healthy, you know? It'll say, like, these cookies are healthy. Bitch, they're cookies. it's, no, they're not. So things are relative when it comes to yeah. It's one of those things. It's like if you did that once, you're gonna find everyone else in your squad is suddenly gonna label a diss track, and you're gonna be the starring person in it. Oh my god, yeah. Um, it's very very strange. Oh, and Allfather Hat has Danish MREs coming in the mail. I always
Oh
imagined
no.
that Danish MREs would have it would be like the giant butter cookie tin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you put the key in the tin and you rotate the key on the tin and you slowly peel it open. And it's not butter cookies. There's like some ammo in there, you know, and like some smoked fish in a tin, and then like probably a flask of mead and a toasting horn, you know, to drink it out of. I also I think that the Danish military has had like 4 deployments in its history in the 20th century, and I played as them in Hearts of Iron once just to see what I could do. The answer was not much, but you could do a lot of really funny stuff. Then again, we've broken Hearts of Iron a lot of times, which is
We
quite
have.
fun. Well, what was it? Where we love playing. Depp and I play what we've called Top Gun Hearts of Iron, where Depp leaves me in charge of the military-industrial complex, economy, and politics, and then I leave Depp in charge of military decision making, strategic overlay, the Navy, the Air Force, the Army. And then between us, we like Top Gun, you know, like talk to me, Goose. We're just flying through space and making decisions. Really poor ones, I might add. But we made Siam huge. We made Siam huge in that one playthrough. We got Siam 3/4 of the way through India and like the
Yeah.
southern half of China.
Yeah.
Guangxi and those and Hunan provinces were ours. I love that Let's Play or playthrough of it. We should probably record those because Hearts of Iron with a cop. But yeah, we had a lot of really stupid stuff happen, and we really break the world with Hearts of Iron. We had a really really, really stupid time with Hearts of Iron. I remember what I started a recent was I was trying to take micro states or minor nations and just to see what sort of nonsense you
We
could get
could
up to
do.
them with.
Yeah.
Well, I remember I made Largentina. We put that in that video about, you know, whale guns and mods and friendship. But we did Largentina. And that was really, really fun. Because they slowly gobbling up the rest of South America. We had to basically... There's this thing called the Monroe Doctrine. And the Monroe Doctrine means that if you fuck around in South America... Oh, yes. If you,
Sorry.
it's all right. But if you fuck around in South America, government America get very mad and go, why you do this? And start trying to stop you with a big stick. And what I found out is what we would do is I would slowly massage America. And I would be like, you are the coolest country on earth. We love you guys, trade treaties, all these other things. And then when they turn around and look back, they're like, where's Uruguay? And I'm like, what?
Yep.
I don't understand what you're talking about. They're like north of where Buenos Aires is this country. I'm like, I've never heard of that. What are you talking about? And they're like, well, all right, that seems fair. And then they look back and they're like, was Mato Grosso always in Argentina? And I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, definitely. What happened to Chile? What? I'm sorry, I don't understand. You mean the west coast of Argentina? No, no. Just slowly absorbing things. And the problem was is I found that I could get up pretty much to Venezuela and Colombia before they started to notice that Argentina was very, very big.
There's okay. Gonna tab. No, not tab. Nope.
But when it comes down to like wackadoodle crazy fun times, it's really just about having fun.
Yes.
And I find that people who take Hearts of Iron seriously are just why. I remember your tank designs being one of the most cursed delights we ever had.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, everybody knows that the M3 Lee was a four-turreted wheeled monstrosity that had riveted armor and a
You built you built
diesel
basically a
engine.
cross. You built basically a cross between the fucking bad guy tank in. Thank you, Mr. Train. You built basically the bad guy tank from Indiana Jones and then steampunked it because it was just driven rivets like a fucking steamship. And
Yeah,
then you made it wheeled, and then it had like 4 or 5 turrets, none of which had the same gun on it. And then it did like 100 miles an hour on road wheels, and you were like, ta-da! Then you had the flatbed tank destroyer,
yeah.
where you removed the turret and put like a 90 mil gun on it, and it was just like a flatbed on tracks that did 100 miles an hour and had an AT gun.
Yeah, it had a high velocity squeeze bore cannon.
Oh yeah,
Like
squeeze bore. Yeah,
it it could pierce like cruiser armor, like cruiser armor belt.
yeah. We designed some really good guns and stuff. Yeah, it's dumb,
It was
but
like if Germans ran out of metal to put armor on the sides of a Hetzer.
yeah, yeah, it's not
I'm
good.
trying to remember what the binocular button is. Was it N for binocular? M? It's not
It's
B.
a it's a Kojima game. Who knows?
I need either that or the. Hmm.
I mean, Kojima games are typically like, hey, would it be this for that? Nah.
I think I hit that guy. U
F for
Y.
finoculars? Is it F for finoculars or
It
Z
is
for
F.
zoom? F for binoculars.
Analysis complete.
You think Snake is just sitting there judging someone when he puts them in the binoculars to judge their skills? He's like, they look like they do a lot of squats.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
That's what
man.
I would be doing.
You're just sitting there like, nice ass. And they're like, thank you, but that makes me uncomfortable.
I don't care.
Analysis complete.
Compliment your enemies until they leave their assigned checkpoints. Just compliment them. What kind of workout are you doing? Your arms look fantastic. And they're like, shut up. And they run off.
Alright, so this
Good
guy in
times.
front of us is a braggart.
He's a braggart. He's bragging about being in Afghanistan. He's like, no,
He
no, no,
brags
no, no.
about his skills.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
And
this
that
is
apparently carries through the scope.
you can see that.
I can see that.
You can
yeah.
see that. You're like, I know a braggart when I see one.
Because all of the skills that he brags about show like 8 gazillion skill power.
Your destination.
Oh, we have to take an eye break. One moment. I'm closing them.
Oh god, I just opened them.
All right, I have opened my eyes again. Done and done. Uh-oh. Well, oh, what? Oh. Headshot.
I have forgotten once again to do that for you.
Oh, it's all right.
There you go.
I'm more than fine watching this with a delay if necessary. It's a Kojima
not
game.
necessary.
Nothing happens fast. It's a Kojima game. Nothing happens fast in Kojima land.
Inside this darkened building, you saw me, huh?
Well, he is very aware of your sense of presence in this world. Sees auras. He sees auras.
It's a diamond in the rough. God, I've played too much Tarkov. I see those Afghanka jackets hanging on the wall, and I'm like, I wonder what's in those.
I had the same problem like running around with Marauders, because Marauders taught me what to look for and not to touch. And then I played another game, and I was like, I'm searching things that are just objects that have nothing in them.
Yep. Right.
You think one of
He's
them
gonna
would
come
get on the
searching
radio?
him. Radios are for squares.
Well, with an R105M, I don't think that radios would help. It's one of those things of if that is not a good radio set. So is this guy just walking around? This guy just walking around with a PKM, just swinging that around, having a good time, checking things out.
He's a solid B.
Well, that's nice to say. I mean, if someone came up to me and said, Tex, you're a solid B, I'd be like, well, thank you. That's really appreciative. I think that's very nice. Solid B is pretty good in most people's books.
That's the target. Looks like we found him.
Oh, come on, you son of a bitch.
Knock him down.
Oh, I'm out of suppressor.
Oh, well. Too bad we can't do what we did in Cyberpunk, where you put the non-lethal marker on something, and it's non-lethal even if it blows them into 100 pieces.
Stay low and crawl along the ground. That should enable you to sneak past enemies. That's the target.
Cut him down. Yeah, being S-Class does sound exhausting.
It does. Oh, Jesus Christ. Just go down. Go down. Thank you.
Nah, man. If someone has some foul bits in them, they're obviously, you know, very okay to stand up.
Why were you running around with a fucking sniper rifle? Don't you know that effective leadership requires that you have a pistol and no more?
Effective leadership requires you have binoculars so that you can call down artillery on things.
Good. Now for the other two.
Why aren't these guys shooting at me?
Well, I think that maybe they're hoping that you will give them a balloon ride.
Fuck off.
And so, yeah, they're hoping you'll give them a balloon ride because that sounds really fun, and they're bored. So they're like, well, if I don't shoot him, he won't kill us, and maybe I get to have a balloon ride. And, you know, they don't realize that this is a one-way ticket to having your ass beat by someone
With rubber bullets.
with rubber bullets.
No, I can't steal it yet.
I love that scream. It lets you know that they're on their way to fun times.
It does.
So what was the objective here? Just to
I
steal a
had
handful
to...
of people?
Yeah, I had
or-
to steal those people. And now I get to steal this mortar.
Well, seems like the Gas Jeep 9000 is a fun thing to drive. Well, with its motion blur but non-turning wheels.
Yes. Yeah, they spared no expense on whatever it is. It's supposed to be a UAZ 469.
Yeah, that's why I say it's gas Jeep, because it has gas, you know, and Jeep. And it's ideas. It's ideas, the vehicle. Four-wheel ideas, the vehicle. Gas Jeep, from the makers of car truck
There we go.
and boat plane.
Caution. Sandstorm approaching.
Do you need a truck that is also a boat? We make that too.
Yeah, so that's really what I don't understand is, yes, gas still produces vehicles, but nobody
Plant expansion
would,
Marker placed.
kind of ever go after them for copying a gas 69 or UAZ 469 in this game.
Yeah, no. It's like copying a Euro bike, you know?
Yeah.
It's yeah.
But they did that for all the vehicles as well as all the weapons. That's why when people are like, oh, he had to do the fake guns because of the way they were doing upgrades in the game. No, he didn't, because this mod shows that it works fine with real guns. But even more than that, it doesn't explain why he would do it with all the vehicles as well, when they very specifically have used real vehicles and equipment in the previous game. I S-ranked that.
Yeah. Codename Octopus.
No
That's right.
enemy combat alerts.
Nuh-uh, not one. Not one combat alert. Because you're a very stealthy operator.
Mm-hmm. I killed one of the guys I ran over, so I didn't get no kills.
Nice.
But I wasn't gonna fucking move them. They were in the way out. Oh yeah, my heroism rating.
And this guy has longer credits than I do.
He does, after every mission. Gaz Jeep is pleased. I want to be able to steal the trucks. That's my goal, is to get advanced enough that I can upgrade the Fulton to steal trucks.
I rode in a Gaz 469, and I'm gonna say this. When you're in that, and it's going down the road, you have no idea if that is a gas or a diesel engine at any point.
Oh yeah.
It feels like something that's in between. Now, it is a gasoline engine.
But it runs like a low RPM diesel.
It runs like shit. And so you'll be driving along and you'll be like, what's this run on? And someone just shrugs. It sounds as bad as it runs. But it runs. It runs. But it's just, what is this? What is this engine design? It's like, old.
It will run on gasoline down to 76 octane. Which
You mean
is
Soviet high test?
which is spicy water at that point.
Well, a lot of people don't realize, but the Soviet system for fuel refining was largely diesel and kerosene, and gasoline was only really spun off in limited amounts. And so high test, high quality gasoline for like the Chaikas and the KGB cars had to be imported, and typically through Finland.
Clouds approaching.
Uh,
Development project. Unit function added.
So, another
Oh.
thing that I determined, and I don't know if we've talked about this before, stop me if I have, is that Soviet drivers...
The map has been updated.
Hold on, another sneeze coming.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
Oh,
Another
there's one.
sneeze.
God damn.
Alright.
I'm waiting for my Claritin to kick in.
Claritin.
Marker placed.
So I've got some. You were gonna say Soviet
Oh.
drivers.
Yeah, Soviet drivers always wear the high boots, even when the low boots became available and were considered to be better. They always wear the high boots, and it took me a second to realize why. And the reason is that if you drive the Gaz more than, I don't know, 20 minutes, the transmission tunnel will burn your leg.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how you know that it's good. That heat means power. So I have the UAZ 469 as and you know, it's a vehicle. But here's what we got. I wanted to list you off some of the lesser known variants. Lesser known variants. The UAZ 469B, the civilian model, did you know that it offered such features as a contactless electronic ignition system?
Supply drop
Oh, wow.
complete.
Yeah, and and a canvas roof with the option of a fiberglass hardtop.
Yeah.
Man, now you got me sneezing. God damn it! All right, so let's see. Let me see. Ooh, did you know that the police car version comes with the option of insulation for the doors and the roof?
And the roof? That's something special.
And the roof. Now, I know that they also made the UAZ, I think it was the 3907.
Select a supply
That was the Jaguar. That was the one that has, it's basically that they dropped into a small boat hull and they put two propellers at the end of it. So it's
Gaz 46 is the previous version of that.
supply drop complete.
good old. Now, here's the thing. There is also a rarer version still. The UAZ Martorelli. They exported it to Italy.
Oh no.
So I'm sitting here looking at the variations that were exported when the Italians got on them. And they have one that is a racing trim.
Of course they do. For like rally stuff.
That's what they say. Now, when it comes down to a racing trim, it offers a Fiat engine, which, as you know, Fiat is certainly top tier racing when you think about it. 112 horsepower, 112 ponies, up to, you know. They also made a sport model that has a shorter wheelbase. Shorter wheelbase.
Already like 84 inches.
Yeah, well, guess what? Shorter. So then let me look. Okay, let's guess. Out of a 2.5 liter engine, how many horses do you think the UAZ 469 has from the plant?
75.
Oh, you are too nice.
Okay.
71.1.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sitting here trying to get information on the engine, but most people say there's some debate. Sorry. It could get 75 horsepower at 4,000 RPM. Oh, my God. It's like a Willys Jeep that didn't retire.
So the original engine for the Gaz was just a copy of the Willys Go Devil, like direct copy. It took me forever to confirm that. But I was able to.
I love that the speedo goes to 120 kph to show you digits you will never reach.
Yeah. It does add that. Alright. Come steal this shit.
So you have to basically redline that son of a bitch to get the power out of it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that is the upgrade engine. Like I said, the original one was a Willys Jeep engine. It just torquey on the low end. Did absolutely nothing else. Top speed about 45.
Well, if you go faster than 45 in that thing, all you will do is make more noise. You will not go faster. You will put your foot down harder, and the tires will make more noise, and the wheel hubs will make more noise.
Yeah. Yep.
It's kind of like, I know people who have M35, deuce and a halves. And I think Mr. Regular kind of said it best with his, video on the deuce. He just goes, you get a deuce, you're not going anywhere fast. But for a truck that is that big, it only has, I think, 150 horsepower. It is not a lot. It's just all torque.
The
And
great
it's not,
thing... Go ahead.
yeah. No, you go ahead. I'm going to be nicer than you. How's that?
The great thing about the Deuce and a Half is you can just put your foot to the firewall and leave it there for 15 hours. If
Yep.
you're going down the highway, you will only move 55 miles an hour because that is the top speed unless you've got the Whistler Turbo, in which case it's 58.
Yep.
A turbo
You can
gets
do-
you 3 miles an hour
Correct.
because it's gear limited.
Yeah, they're not that fast. They'll last forever.
Mhm.
And they're the
Big parts.
tank. Yeah. They are last forever. You've also got the Continental Motors Company. I mean, good lord, it's like an 8-liter engine, but it's not a lot of power in terms of horsepower. But I think it's 300-400 foot-pounds of torque. It's plenty of torque. I mean, you will haul all the mail. I always kind of wanted a Deuce, but I've never lived in a place where I could justify it, and I've never ever wanted to say I want to buy 12 truck tires at a time.
Yeah, so that's kind of miserable about them.
Yeah. Well, that and the other thing is it's like beam axles on leaf springs. So I mean, it's like crossing the prairie in a wagon.
Yeah, so there's that as well. There we go. I knew it was somewhere. But, once you own a Deuce, there's a lot of people that are your friend. Everybody wants help moving.
Yeah, like I know that you've said that they are cringe incarnate, but I really want a bobbed Deuce with like a Caterpillar engine in it. I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, to each their own.
I know, but you've just said like I'm tired of bobbed Deuces, just have one or don't. And I'm like,
Well, no, I think it's funny that everybody bobs their Deuce and they're like, oh, this kind of really limits the capabilities of this vehicle. And then they try to sell it, and nobody wants it.
well, they try to sell it for 30-40 grand.
Yes.
Because
That's the cost they put into doing that bob.
Well, yeah, they go, well, not only doing it well in terms of that, but also putting a good modern engine in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's the sad thing is if you go look at Bob Deuce sales and stuff like that for people who do it, you'll find that they put in like really not great Caterpillar engines in them. And I don't mean Caterpillar makes poor engines. They don't. They'll go put in retired Caterpillar engines that Caterpillar said, these are not good engines anymore. We're not going to make them anymore. And someone has a whole pile of them and goes, oh yeah, the engine that blows its timing, gears out at 20,000 miles, that's what you need for your Bob Deuce, because they presume that you're not going to drive it except at car shows.
Yeah, and a lot of these, that's all they do, is they do veterans parades and car shows.
If I had a Deuce and a half, I would drive it everywhere. I'd be like, yeah, no, I'll just drive this. I'd be like, time to go get groceries and the tank,
Yep. No, when I had a friend that taught me to drive a stick in a Deuce and a half. And we're making a road in a forest with the Deuce and a half. And I bent one of his fenders all to fuck because I hit a tree that I thought we could knock down with the bumper, and it turned out to need the sawzall. And I was freaking out because I'm fucking 17 years old. I'm like, oh god, I just fucked up your truck. Oh good god. And he just laughed. for like the entire ride about that. And then when we got back, he went and pulled an extra fender out, and we bolted it on in like 20 minutes, and he straightened out the other one to be the extra, and put it
Yeah.
back in the pile.
That's the thing is I saw somebody make a really cool camper for a deuce and a half because you have a giant, you know, you have a giant bay that can carry
Fuck is this?
8,000 tons. And so, yeah, they just basically took their turbo diesel deuce and a half and turned it into a, you know, post-apocalyptic, you know, explorer buggy, which was
Yep.
really cool. Yeah, I'm looking right now where there's an ocean of bobbed deuce and a halves, and they're like, call for price, and that means I'm going to be so embarrassed when I tell you how much I want for it.
Almost certain. And like I said, it's not even their fault because it's an expensive process to do. It's a lot of work that you have to put into Baba Deuce. But if you are not certain that that's what you want, there's not a lot of money you can get back out of that truck.
Well, I'm seeing one right now that's not bad. An M35A3 with the Caterpillar 3116 turbo diesel and an Allison automatic transmission, and they've taken the dualies and converted them to just oversized tires. That's like exactly what you want, but
the single conversion will get you about 2 miles an hour on its own, because those are slightly taller tires. You lose a tiny bit of torque, but they also ride much better than the NDTs, and they stop much better than the NDTs.
it's not only that. Like having something like that would be handy, but you'd have to live in basically bumfuckistan in order to have something like that. Because this is a vehicle you don't garage. You just like leave it in the field and throw the keys somewhere.
Girl's back. Let's go welcome them to town.
Sounds like a winner. And thank you guys for the support. Sorry we're really bad at reading chat. We just get kind of lost in the esoteric nonsense of,
Yep.
you know, talking about vehicles and military stuff.
So, talking about guys who are modding these ancient trucks to work. There's a forum that I'm part of because it's one of the Russian truck forums that is specific to the model of vehicle I have. And there's guys on there who work as contractors in, you know, third world countries throughout Central Asia and Africa who are on those forums because they're like chief mechanic for their company working on Urals and keeping them up because it's the only thing that'll get through that terrain. So, you know, giant Ural trucks like the one I just shot the guy's faces out of, still being used by legitimate, like, corporations that are doing operations in very austere places because they are so reliable. And it's the Russian style of reliability is what I've found. Is it breaks down often, but it is very easy to field fix.
Yeah, get a rock, smash it. Simple. It's like one of my favorite moments in working on AKs and stuff was I saw a guy take a hot load in an AK and it blew the dust cover and it bent the spring, and I mean it opened the receiver up, and we thought, wow, that's toast. And this guy took the dust cover, went over to a bench, and used a rock and beat it back into roughly the shape, and then bent everything else on the bench back into shape with that rock, and then put it in the gun and ran it. And I was like, oh, I guess I don't know what I'm talking about. Holy shit. Like, he Elmer fudded the rear of the receiver, and then he's like, and then just banged it back together with a rock. And I went, all right. Well, I mean, okay.
If you say so, boss.
Yeah, I mean, some people are really talented. Oh my. I've found where you can buy the M818 tractors just fine. So if you want to, like, move a plane or a house, like, I don't mean a mobile home, I mean a house. Like,
Yeah.
if someone is home and you're like, not today, and you just throw the chain around the foundation and put it in drive, you can go.
Fuck it. I don't care about this blueprint anymore.
And there's a lot of 5-ton trucks for sale, but then again, where in the fuck are you gonna drive them?
Yeah, so 5 tons are the most recent big truck to come out of surplus in numbers. We're about a decade past the good time to buy Deuces. Because it used to be 10, 15 years ago that you could buy Deuce and a halves at scrap weight. Running Deuce and a half trucks at scrap value. Which is, at the time, was about $1,700. That's insane for a truck of that size and that capability. Now,
Oh, yeah.
5's kind of the bottom on them, 10 for a nice one. Between inflation and just the scarcity, because there were a bunch of scrap companies that were buying them at scrap price and scrapping them.
Yeah, I mean, they're neat, but you'd have to have a farm to enjoy one. Now, if I had a farm, I would definitely have a Deuce and a half. Now, I would just do this, so if people are like, why do you have that? I would say because I truck. And then they would watch the Tippy truck video and be like, no, you don't.
I really don't think that shooting the tailgate of this dump truck variant of the gas would cause the engine to smoke, but who am
Well,
I?
it would if it's a Beeple Motors product.
Yeah, okay.
Remember when I had the when I found out you could put tail fins on a car? You know
Yeah.
what? That's what we should do that next time, is like BeamNG, and I'll come up with some different cars, and I won't show you these cars, and then I will just give them to you. And
Okay.
you can run them through their paces. We could do that next week. Have some more BeamNG fun. But yeah, I did that Beeple Motors thing where I had a car with giant, huge, like badonkadonk tail fins, and I made them huge. They look like torpedoes, and then I put the gas filler caps on them, so they're like fuel blisters. So at the tail of your car, you have these 2 hot water tanks basically filled with high test gasoline, because I made it run on 103 octane. I was like,
As you
rear in
do.
this car, yeah, rear in this car and meet God. Like, if you thought the Pinto was bad, if you hit that car from any angle, you would see the explosion from orbit.
Margot placed. Margot removed.
So what mission are we doing here in Kabul?
We've got to go fight Quiet and capture Quiet.
Quiet.
Yeah.
Gotta capture somebody named Shh.
Right. We'll leave that there for posterity. The Russians are still shooting into the sandstorm because I drove by menacingly in a truck.
Grubfist asked, hey, Depp, are you excited for Contraband Police's Endless mode coming out soon?
It already feels kind of endless.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Detected.
What? Why are you just shooting wildlife?
Because I get money.
Oh, all right.
Come here, you son of a bitch. Remember, there's some NGO that will pay us $5,000 per sheep to save them from war-torn Afghanistan.
Yeah,
And
we
by
gotta think about
save
the
them,
sheep.
by save them, they mean put them on a specific zoo platform on my oil derrick that gets attacked like weekly.
Well,
and they
you need to
can't
have that
escape.
zoo platform on your oil platform, right?
Yes.
Enemy presence
I call it the Zoil platform.
has been updated.
The Zoil platform. Okay.
Analysis complete.
I really don't understand why all of our suppressors are made of Swiss cheese in this game.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you got them at Harbor Freight. Like, you know, it's like at Harbor Freight. You're like, why is this drill $2? And it's like, so you can buy a 12-pack of them.
Like, we figured out pretty sturdy, cleanable suppressors in the 40s.
Yeah.
Analysis complete.
Well, yeah. I mean, the suppressor, or at least the modern suppressor, is an invention of Hiram Maxim's son, which he did it because his dad was deaf. Go figure. But you know, deaf from the job, more or less.
Yeah.
But Hiram Maxim's son invented the suppressor that we would recognize today. Is just more or less a continuation of the mechanical engine muffler. But yeah, it was by about the 40s that we start learning how baffled and integral suppression works, the Delisle carbine, etc. The suppressors are an interesting study, but they're not typically as Hollywood makes them out to be. There are very few completely silent firearms, and those that are very specifically adapted to them with custom ammunition and certainly custom configurations and barrel suppression mechanics and many other things.
Yeah.
For very niche applications. But they certainly, it's not, well, Mike put it best. Really. He said that if you hear a suppressor go off in the next room, you don't think, wow, what was that noise? You're like, wow, someone just got killed by Agent 47. Like, you realize that something bad has happened.
If there's a suppressor shot in the next room, you go, that was a gunshot. Because it still sounds like a gunshot.
There's a few exceptions where you're like, that doesn't sound like a gunshot. The 22 suppressors that you can get nowadays are so incredibly effective that generally you only hear the bolt cycle and the impact of the bullet, and that's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
But that's also, you know, it's still an explosion, so it's very hard to cover that up. It's like covering up screaming. It's one of those things of, it sounds like it sounds because it's a unique sound.
Yep. Alright, since I crashed a truck in the sandstorm, we're just gonna run. Yes.
I love the idea. Well, Pistol points out, could you imagine, you know, waking up? Yeah, I mean, imagine coming out of, you know, your ketamine haze from being shot with a dart.
8 times.
And, 8 times in the face, so your face looks like a pincushion. You know, like 8 times in the face.
You've got very specific hickey marks.
Yeah. And then you are mid-air, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And then you get snatched out of the air.
Gesundheit. Yeah, you get snatched out of the air by a C-130, which is the noise they give.
You hope it's a C-130. We are a discount mercenary unit. It might be like not a C-130.
Analysis complete.
We're recovering people with a Cessna 18.
Ugh. It's a Cessna 172 with like a hook between the gears. You know what I would do to that guy in the tower is I would just take the ladder away. Just take the ladder away. Take the ladder away from the guy. Just take the ladder and walk off and be like, nah, figure it out. Figure it out, smart guy. Nothing says special operation like leaving a bunch of 5.56 brass where there shouldn't be any in the country.
Yep.
Guard post captured.
That's a nice touch I hadn't noticed in this game.
You can shoot through canvas.
Yeah, I had not noticed that. Because in most games you run into an object that's a wall, and it goes, "This is a wall."
Yep. I know. Killing people bad. That's why it does the bad guy noise.
Yeah, abducting people and beating them until they join your organization is perfectly fine. Again, Kojima with his mixed messages.
Yeah.
Well, if you kidnap someone and brainwash them, it's fine, but if you shoot them, that's evil. And I'm like,
No,
huh?
all soldiers want to work for Big Boss because he's the best soldier that ever soldiered.
Do you think that, like, soldiers in his setting, like, you know, when they're 8 years old, are sitting there with a box of Wheaties and has a big box, you know, Big Boss on the big box?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
No, that's the only thing that jives with this. Everyone knows who Big Boss is and immediately wants to join his organization after sitting in timeout for 20 minutes. Yeah, they use P-Quad, which is a terrifying concept that you would recover somebody with P-Quad. Because the way you recover somebody from a Fulton is it hooks the line, cuts the parachute off, and then you pull them in behind the aircraft past the spinning tail rotor, while the airflow around the airframe whips the person around into either that or the main rotor. Like, really, it's a crazy system to think that in the 50s we could do that. Like, look up some of the videos on how it works. It is nuts how the Fulton actually works. It is cooler than what is shown here.
It's
like,
way
far.
cooler. It's way cooler. The other one that's really interesting is that, you know, I mean, I love the idea that Kojima is like, what do we call this person who is the ultimate soldier? Do we call him one of the horsemen of the four apocalypse? Do we give him a biblical name? Do we make reference to lore or perhaps poetry or something about the timelessness of soldiers? And they're like, nah, Big Boss.
Yeah,
And everyone else in the room fucking clapped and said, "You got this. You are the writer of the age."
Well, remember, Big Boss, that name is from the first fucking top-down Metal Gear game. So it's him writing his way around all the stupid shit he did when he was making video games in his backyard.
Well, I get that, but
I know.
you could say that, like, you could say, for instance, in rewriting anything, you could say, yeah, that was his call sign once upon a time for that operation, because call signs are not static.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been really cool, but he doubled down on it. He was
He
like,
did.
no, he is Big Boss.
Oh, now the truck comes by. Now that I'm here, fuck you. You know what?
I remember when I had the rocket arm in this game, and I just tried to line up how many times I could punch someone in the face at the same time, like that Indian movie where the guy punches 80 people in one go.
Yeah, exactly. I do not care how cyclic you let the machine gun go. At 20 yards, every single round from this M60 would have been within a cone about 3 inches wide.
Yeah, especially on a bipod in this arrangement. But there's what I like to call video game minute of arc, right?
I know.
Where video games will say the longer you shoot something, the wider the arc gets. And that is true, especially in doing pistol drills and stuff like that. If you do pistol drills where it's, you know, unholster, shoot 4 rounds, reholster, unholster, shoot 4 rounds, reholster, and you do that all day, you will find that, yes, that gets very wide very quick as fatigue sets in. But if you have like eyes on a professional who shoots all day every day, you'll find that that amount of time of, you know, your minute of arc and everything adjustments, and you find that your circle of where bullet go, you know, in terms of growing larger between sets does certainly increase, especially with fatigue, as I said. You'll find that professionals can shoot like that for like an hour,
Yeah.
quite effectively, without pause. Like the first round to the last round will be fairly close within tight grouping. It is very, very, very consistent.
Yeah, if you want to see, depending on what kind of training you're doing, if you want to see how you are doing, save your first target and only do your first, you know, qual or whatever you're figuring out. And then save your last target and compare the two.
Yep. It's one of those things of if you're like lifting weights or something like that, your form is very important. If you're rowing, your form is very important. If you're running, your form is very important. Same with anything that requires muscle memory and repetition. It's one of those things where you have to make sure that you are focused in what you do. But I love that video games think that, you know, if you go full auto with something that, you know, all the bullets are going to go everywhere. And I'm like, no, not with training. That, no. Oh, cool. Something's coming in. Just, you know. There you go.
I realized that I put the drop point on top of the... Oh, good fucking lord.
Unit function added.
Aerial first
Construction
aid.
arrived at Mother Base.
Wow, aerial first aid.
Ooh,
And
I
hello,
can-
Father Bill. Thanks for joining us. Dep, you're
Oh,
being judged
howdy.
by a Catholic priest.
that
We're all
parachute
being judged.
was floating somewhere I couldn't get.
Oh, man. No, Father Bill doesn't judge anybody. He's
SOCOM
got people.
Navy SEALs was fire. I only ever played the first one because I was poor, and that's the one I got at the local game store before it died.
I remember that game. That was a really good game. That was a really, really, really good game.
Yeah. Time to download my mission from this giant box with the glowy beacon.
When it comes to special operations and stuff, I think running around would be kind of funny.
Yeah, we're doing the LRDG version of special operations, where we run around in the desert, leaving shit behind at every corner.
No, we just need to put the world. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things of we would have to put the qualifier on that and be like, what kind of special operation is this? And it's like, well, you know that handbook we had? Yeah, we ate it. We found out that if the enemy has no idea what we're doing, neither do we. And that way they can't predict what we do because we don't know until we do it.
Boss, to take out enemy combat vehicles, you'll want to use explosive weaponry. Missiles, grenades, placed explosives. If you haven't developed these yet, use your iDroid to give the order. Choose your weapon according to the situation.
Why are you giving me the speech now? Do I have to blow something up?
I love that this guy comes along and just has that, like, they go, hey, we know you're in the middle of enemy territory, and we know that it's really, really important that you not die in the middle of enemy territory. But anyways, we're going to contact you on VHF in the middle of enemy territory.
Yep.
And just broadcast in the open without any form of codes or anything. Just, you know, just in the open. Why not?
It's the way we do things here at Diamond Dogs. We're innovators. We broke out of the mold of U.S. Special Forces.
Well,
Now,
that's
anything they
what-
do is bad because they do it, and anything we do is good because we do it.
I love that sort of logic. Is it's like we're the good guys. Why? Well, our leader's called Big Boss. I mean, it would be like saying we're the good guys in the Street Race movie. Why? Well, our leader's called Large Marge. Like, what? Why?
Analysis.
I love when the enemy sets up nothing but spotlights.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. There might be something more useful to put on that tower than a spotlight.
Analysis complete.
I don't know, like not a spotlight or the maybe field phone wire so they don't have to use the radio. Like it'd be cool if like a guy in a forward observation position could pick up a field phone instead of a radio to report that he's being shot by someone 4 feet away. That
Yeah.
would be interesting. That would be very interesting. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Father Bill. It's nice to see you here. Now, when it comes down to these sorts of things, like I love that this guy's just out there by his lonesome with a spotlight. How is he going to call for help?
He
Like,
waves the spotlight back and forth at the building.
Why? Why?
Because the same person that did these signs and signals also did the Team America one.
Oh, right, where they just do that panic gesture thing. Like, hey,
Yeah.
if we're in trouble, I'll do this. Yeah, all right. Because you have somebody sitting there with a spotlight. They have no field phone. They have no radio. They have nothing. They just have spotlight. So the next century's alert that something is wrong is if that spotlight goes out or you suddenly see it jerk in a new direction.
Except they don't pay attention to either of those things. I can shut it off, I can jerk it around. Once I'm in control, it doesn't mean anything.
Out of context, that would be a bad statement. I'm sure no one will clip that.
Nice.
All right. Yeah. As this guy's really paying attention up here.
The map has been updated.
I love how it makes you, it gives you heroism points for crawling up there and just clamping down on the neck until the person gives up.
Caution.
Yep.
Sandstorm approaching.
Oh no, fuck you. You don't fucking do that.
Just throw him off that. As you know, Snake is such a great soldier that he can jump
Yeah,
from
30
two
feet.
stories up, with a person on his back, land with the grace of a cat.
He's coming too.
And
Yep.
there's there's that out of context right there.
Excellent. I'll use my night vision to see through this sand.
Oh yeah, night vision. You know what would be really fun is to have one of these games set in the 50s so you could see 1950s night vision, aka look at this IR spotlight, isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this, but the original M48 tanks had a giant fuck-off sized, like, xenon lamp for spotting stuff. Like, giant fuck-off lamp. Like, that... In fact, let me see if I can pull the data on that, because it's like a scary big lamp. It was back in the era of, like, we'll blind them, boys! Yeah, that giant fucking box on the M48 patent gun is a lamp.
Yeah.
It's a big boy lamp.
Giant fucking arc lamp.
Well, it's what you need, obviously. You need a lamp. Lamp.
You smell something wrong. Is that really the question you wanted to ask?
Okay, I got the data on it. It says, deet, 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 deet. It is a xenon light and IR emitter, AN/VSS1. Yeah, holy crap. It is, let's see, IR with the black filter will go out to 100 meters, which, okay, not great. But the xenon part of that lamp, they say, is blinding at miles.
Yes. I'm trying to... Didn't they... There's some pictures of Checkpoint Charlie, the standoff, where they were using those, right?
Yep. Love lamp.
No good, boss. Attacking like that won't cut it. Aim somewhere else.
Yeah, I.E. Geth says, the tank museum near me had one with a light working. Used to demo it before the nearby airport and theme park complained. Yeah. It's lamp. It is absolute lamp. I mean, that was valid back in the day. If you look at Gen 1 IR systems, you have like the Vampire system and stuff like that the Krauts used in the Deuce. And that's just a big ol' IR spotlight. Just simple as just run some batteries into an infrared lamp and then have the right goggles for it.
Yep.
Very short range, but IR searchlights and Gen 1 night vision is hilarious. I know your stories of your experience with the Gen 2 and 3 systems are hilarious, especially with this may cause cancer.
What? So yeah, there's always those warnings, which are fun. But even more than that, you know, we used Russian night vision in some of our capacity. So I've got experience with everything from... Oh, hold on, I gotta kill a guy.
Oh, of course. I would hate to interrupt your anecdote with anything other than violence.
Yeah, so I've used PNV 57s, which are the Metal Gear Solid 2 type on the tanker helmet, giant battery on the hip. Those are actually Gen 0. You need a spotlight with those. The spotlight was missing in Metal Gear Solid 2, but who expects Kojima to pay attention to that kind of thing? I think I need the Carl Gustav for this.
Well, that is fair, Gustav.
So I think I'm supposed to... Yeah, I'm supposed to blow up these trucks.
Too bad you don't have like a bar mine or a TM-35 or something.
I think I've got claymores. Later on I can develop an anti-tank mine, even though they've been around for almost 100 years at this point.
I think it'd be fun if you could just use other mines at all. Like, you know, what if you could go through level ups and like the top level was like the German sea mines used in World War One, the giant ones with the ampules. Yeah. So it's like, all right, I gotta bury a mine, and it's like this 4-ton orb that you bury up to the very top, and there's just one of the little prongs sticking up. Car hits it, it explodes for 10 minutes. There's a fireball you can see from orbit, and Snake's like, yeah, I think I wounded him. And then you have to have a knife fight because it's a fucking Kojima game.
This might not get here in time.
Sparafusil says, Tex, I've introduced a group of retired firefighters to the Gospel of Zorg. They are wholly embracing the meme. I think that most firefighters love fire. You kind of have to. Oh, cool. Is that not a T-55?
Yeah. Actually, I think it's supposed to be not a T-64. Come on. You want to go. You want to go.
Yabasnivu.
No. Stop placing it. Place...
You're
oh,
very
Jesus
cool.
fucking Christ.
Well, you did your job. Now you died. Snake!
Yeah,
but you were a firefighter,
detonate
and you love fire.
explosives is E. Yeah, I'm not good at fire, but fire's fine.
Cover your ears, Father Bill. We swear a lot. No, Father Bill forgives us. He's a good guy. I apologized for swearing in front of him every time I do it.
Please give me a Carl G before they get here. they're going to beat it again.
Don't worry about it. It's just a couple. Okay, it's a T-64. It's very expensive. What is it doing here? All right, so yeah, just put down some bomb. Just put down a few bomb. It's just some blammo, you know. Yeah, the T-64 is trying his best here. As you always know, when you run in convoy operations at night in a military operation, you leave the searchlight and lights on all the time. That seems about right. Is Snake a cat? Does he just crawl in a box?
Yes.
Gustav. Is there an IFV up there or what? No.
No,
No.
all
Damn. Oh no.
all
There we
armor
go.
uses that.
I was gonna say, like, why is it using the IFV symbol?
Yeah.
That is definitely not an IFV. That is Tonk.
Now I have to run away from the tank's infantry support. But that's fine. I'm running faster than this truck is driving.
If this was Russian operations in Afghanistan, you would have a T-55. It would, or a T-62, and it would be rolling down the road.
Yeah.
And then you would have, like, oh, I don't know. You would probably have about 5 or 6 dudes riding as desantnik, which is what that's called, riding on the back of the tank, with their guns out, waiting. And the reason is because if there's a ambush, they're gonna pile off that thing and just start fighting and supporting the tank, and the tank is gonna keep the problem pinned down. That was the theory.
Yep.
Which, yeah, and it's not a bad operations plan for the terrain, especially using older tanks for that. This is not territory I would take a newer tank into.
No, not at all. And we ran into that in our own invasion of Afghanistan, as we learned very quickly that Abrams were not especially helpful in the operations that we were doing. And the Russians figured
yeah.
the same thing out.
Afghanistan is like the moon. There are environmental conditions there and terrain conditions there that are incredibly unique. And it's one of those things where you have to really adapt to the environment with your equipment. And that was largely the takeaway from the DoD. They found they got a lot more power out of stuff like MRAPs than they ever could out of tanks, because it's just about bringing a practical amount of armored vehicle to the correct environment.
Yeah, it's the reason why things like the Stryker AGS exist, is because those wheeled vehicles performed so much better in Afghanistan.
What's really interesting is if you look at stuff like the French armored cars, those are fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Those are absolutely fantastic for what they are.
Alright, I've gained 150 meters on this truck, but I don't know if I'm going to get a bead on it before it hits the end of its little convoy route here. Oh, yep. No. Carl Gustav.
Oh, he is alerted. The ground exploded. Kind of reminds... You've seen that movie The Jerk, right?
I have.
Steve Martin? Yeah. These cans are defective. It just... Things are exploding for no reason. Get away from the cans. Yeah, that's what it feels like. It's the sand is defective, blam.
Oh, god damn it. This would be so much easier if they'd let me buy a truck and ship it in. but I didn't.
You're not allowed to do that. Fuck
Well,
you.
I am if I take the helicopter ride in, but because I didn't want to pay for the helicopter ride, they won't bring a truck. They can drop a Carl Gustav on my head in the center of Afghanistan while I'm actively being shot at by tanks.
With near pinpoint accuracy, I might add.
Yeah.
Like, near pinpoint accuracy. I think that's just amazing.
Yeah, frankly, you know, the modern United States would be perfectly happy with the level of accuracy we see here. Not my accuracy as a trigger puller, but the accuracy of the drops.
Yeah, no, that's more than reliable. What I think is kind of funny is you end up with this notion in this game that, you know, you need an ATGM to stop a tank, and you could stop a tank with, like,
harsh words. If you use them right.
They'll just break on their own. they're
As
not.
any tanker who's ever thrown a track can attest, all it takes is, like, rocks.
A rock, sand that is too soft,
sand that's too hard,
sand that's too hard, small stones, large stones, wet surfaces, snow,
piece of wire strung across the road.
Yeah, if you lay, like, corrugated metal, like a shed roof on the road and the tank drives over it, it needs maintenance now. That track's broken. Turning not suddenly enough.
Yeah.
Trees, mud, ditches, sudden drops, changes in transmission power. Going too fast, going too slow. Yeah, I mean, they are tracked vehicles. You never hear someone saying reliable as a bulldozer. Tracks require a lot of work.
That's why I would never want to own a track. Like, when people are like, "Oh, you'd love to own a tank, right?" Like, no.
Well, I told you I did World War II reenactment, and I told the story about how we accidentally drove that Sherman into the LARP.
Yeah.
But I drove the Sherman once, and I will never drive that fucking thing ever again. I drove it once, and that took all the coolness of driving a tank out of the picture, because you can't see shit, you can't feel shit. So, if any of you have ever driven a vehicle and go, I can't feel the road, you can't in a tank. You feel the tank. So the thing is you stop it too hard, guess what? You're moving, the tank isn't. So your face will rebound off the front of where you're sitting, and in a tank you have to basically stand to see a damn thing. So you're sitting there in the Sherman and you realize you are clutch braking 2 transmissions. So if you thought, oh man, driving a stick is hard, drive 2 at the same time without stalling it.
Yes.
It is a miserable thing. You're doing clutch braking essentially, and it just falls apart. The thing doesn't work right. You're like, how did anyone fight in this? How do you turn without making it break? And the answer is you don't. They just break. Every time you hard brake on a tank, you are breaking part of the tank. You will bend wheels and pins, and you'll shear, track pins and everything else, and eventually it just stops working. Then you have to get out and put it back together and convince it it's okay again.
Yeah, D8 Dozer's the same way. It's a fucking invention. I've driven an Abbott and I've driven an FV432. And it's the same thing. They're just monstrosities to try and operate in any manner that is anything even close to safe, especially with dismounts around. Because you're sitting there, you're like, I can see a narrow slit approximately 17 degrees in front of me. I'm like a horse with blinders on. It's what makes the teamwork that tank crews try to develop so important, because you've got to trust your guys who've got eyes on the outside, your commander, your loader, to know what you're doing.
Boss, we're finally
Ah, now I can send people off to die in my own missions.
Now here's the thing. I actually remember how to start the Sherman. I remember how to start it. And it's like you have to like step 1 is opening all the hatches and doors and letting it air out. That is step 1 because the fumes do get trapped in there. Step 1 is airing it out. That's step 1. You have to check the water, you have to check the battery switch, and then you have to close the battery switch. The voltmeter has to show between, I think, 25 and 28 volts. It's very specific. You have to check the ammeter. It can't show discharge. And then you have to open the fuel supply valves. Then you have to turn the engine over several times with the starter with the ignition switch closed. And then if the engine turns over freely, you can move to the next step of starting. However, if the engine does not turn freely, hydrostatic lock has occurred, which you need to wait 10 minutes and let it air out. It will fix itself. Then you have to pull the choke all the way out, but then you can't leave the choke lever in more than, I think it's like 2 or 3 revolutions or you'll brick the engine. So you have to like choke it back all the way, and then you have to partially close the moment the engine fires. You have to pull the hand throttle lever out. I think it's like 2 or 3 finger length widths. So it's like an inch, maybe at most. Then you have to push the clutch pedal in fully and hold until the engine starts and make sure the shifting level at the same time, shifting levers are in neutral. Otherwise it will jump, backfire, and then stop.
Yep.
Then you have to turn the ignition switch and press the starting switch at the same time. The choke lever has to be pushed forward until the engine starts to idle, and then you have to use the starter for no more than 30 seconds and has to cool off 15 seconds in between, and the engine should start.
Okay, Dep, Lav 25 or track? Lav 25. If I've got to maintain it, Lav 25.
Then the other thing that's scary is like you have to then watch the oil pressure while all this is happening. It's like drumming as an octopus. Okay, it's like you're just all these things going on, and the oil pressure has to reach 40 pounds of pressure in 30 seconds at 1300 RPM, which you're adjusting the idle and the choke at the same time. And then if that doesn't happen, stop the engine. But if it does happen, you have to set and advance the throttle to above 1100 RPM. I think it was like 1350 was the sweet spot. Then once it warms up and the temperature comes up to 160 degrees, then you can check everything right, and then you can check the exhaust temperature, and then you can start running it. And you basically have to run the engine up to about 2500 to start changing gears and getting going places. But it is the most insane thing to do because that's from memory. I am sure I have forgotten steps. I am certain I have forgotten steps. I am dead certain. It is just obscene the amount of work that goes into starting these things. So you're sitting there like, oh, wouldn't this be cool to own a tank? It's like, until you have to do all of those things. And if you don't, it's broken.
Yep.
I would not want to start. I would not want to start a Sherman tank again.
No.
Development project has been added.
Stealth camo PP. No, I don't need stealth camo on my PP.
No, it's fine. You don't need a stealth PP. But I remember, like, the thing that sucked was on that tank, we had to pump gas into it using the hand pump. Because Sherman's run on gas. It's a 4GAA V8, which is a giant fuck-off size V8 block.
Yeah.
And so they run on gas. So you have to get gasoline into a hot tank engine. And so naturally you can't splash it everywhere. The tank is now broken. So you have to get out the gas cans and then use the little hand crank to move over 100 gallons of fuel into it. And I think ours topped out at like 150 gallons. And I'm not sure if you've ever had to drain 150 gallons, but a big drum is 55 gallons. Put 3 of those in by hand by turning a little, screw pump. And at the end of it, you're like, kill me. Your hand will still keep making the motions, even though you don't need it to anymore. It's just like you have brain damage now.
Brain damage. All staff. Greedy Armadillo is in jail, as is Cunning Mastiff and Biting Barracuda. Cunning Mastiff
And what's
just joined.
why is he in jail?
Prison. Like he was
Wasn't
a
cunning
special
enough.
volunteer.
Special enough to go to jail, I guess.
These guys are all in. Oh, what is that? Switch this way. Diplomat. Okay, he's a diplomat.
But yeah, the diesel. Yeah, I mean, like diesel would make things simpler, and fuel injection makes things simpler. But those World War II vehicles, you just go, holy hell, how did they ever drive? When you get in them, you're like, this looks like I made it. Like it looks like something that was put together by somebody from Beeple Motors.
Why did she have a tattoo on her face?
Branding.
That
Branding.
If somebody was willing to let me tattoo my unit on their cheek under their eye, I would consider that disqualifying to be part of my team.
Well, I mean, that's fair, but I can't.
She's got the Fox logo.
I get it. I mean, as far as deniable assets go, somebody getting captured and they're like, "Who do you work for?" and they're like, "Nobody," and you've got like the brand name on your face. Yeah, it's not good. It's kind of, well, I mean, yeah. But yeah, I have no want to drive a tank again. It's one of those things that beats it out of you, and you realize there's a reason why you wear like a fucking leather football helmet.
Yeah. Okay, so story about that is we were preparing a 113, and I was not following my own rule of always helmets and tracks.
Yeah,
I
always
had
helmets.
soft cap on, and I had metal insignia on the soft cap. And unbeknownst to me, the dammit on the back of the metal insignia on the bottom one had fallen off because it was old. And
Right, so you have a spike. You have a wonderful little spike there.
yeah, I've got a wonderful little spike, but it's like 3 inches off my head, so I don't notice it because of the shape of the Navy 8-point covers. God, he harasses people so hard he gives them PTSD? What the fuck, man? So the track jerks slightly, and that is just enough for me to move forward and smack my head into the wall of the track and implant my own insignia into my forehead, which was highly unpleasant to deal with. So always wear your helmet in the track.
I asked why you wear these stupid football helmets in a Sherman tank, and the guy goosed the brakes, and my face occupied about half of the turret ring, and I realized why you wear leather football helmets.
Select unit.
There's no seatbelts in that thing. It's just hold on.
Staff dismissed.
So it's just, you're just sitting there like, what? Clang! Oh, got it. That's yeah. It's these are insane war machines. But that was around the time I discovered BattleTech, and so it made me start to see that universe in a very different way.
I could see how. I mean, it's really hard to smack your head when you're not allowed to move your neck in the neuro helm.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably pretty funny. I think a lot of people in BattleTech have a lot of hilarious, strange injuries that are like mech warrior injuries. Because there's those. If you or your loved ones have mesothelioma, you may be entitled to financial. That commercial.
Yes.
I imagine that there's crap like that for the BattleTech universe, where they're just like, if you use the Alpha Series 27B Neuro Helmet, you may be entitled to financial compensation. But yeah, I imagine that mech warriors have a lot of really weird stuff going on. They probably are like, you wouldn't understand, man. You don't plug into the machine.
What are we doing for
Logo?
our logo here?
Well, triangle would be contractors, uh, which is fitting. So we could do that. And as far as DD, I don't know. I mean, Trongle is for contractors. Let's just make the words. Let's make it weird. Like,
So we've got the full phonetic. We've got the word chick or Doberman or octopus.
oh,
Or
okay.
we've got the words blaster, blue, bat, boy, bronze, brown, camp, diamond, dog, dogs, eastern,
Okay.
fortune,
Let's
girl, gold, green
Why?
ground.
wait. Can we
Horse.
do? Too bad it's not golden, so we could write golden girls. That would be hilarious. Like, who is it? The Golden Girls did this. Why? Let's see. What about ground horse? Like, Man Master. That sounds like a He-Man character. I'm Man Master. Yeah, ground horse sounds real.
So we've got boy. I don't think we've got man.
All right, what is
Oh no, we've got
what about-
man. Man master. Miller naked. Naked horse.
No, let's see. Let's be let's see.
Punished purple
Ah.
queen.
That sounds like a band. Like,
The
we're
Punished
Punished Purple
Purple
Queen. Yeah, that sounds like a band.
Sight, silver, snake, sons of southern special,
Clouds approaching.
trooper,
Uh,
vamp, venom, Vulcan, western woman, yellow, 0 zeros.
0 zeros. Let's make. Who
Alright.
are we? We're 0 zeros. Yeah, there we go. See, we're elite forces. Imagine that lady with a face tattoo. She's like, I got diamond dog. We changed. We're 0 zeros now, and she just starts crying. I got this face tattoo. Well, you shouldn't have. We changed it. We're 0 zeros. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
We had to
You know,
rebrand.
it happens. Alright, hold on.
We are 0 zeros. Okay, we can fix that tattoo into the tank and we'll hit the brakes once for you. Clang.
See, they're catching on. Alright.
Yeah. Welcome to 0 zeros. We could put a what else? Swords. Ooh, a unicorn. Let's put the unicorn on there. That's real fancy. Yeah. Yeah. It's like this looks like a garage band. Like I would see this on the side of a drum case.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
We're 0 zeros, and then they just are like a Bachman Turner Overdrive cover band, but a ska version. Wild Stallions. That's us. We're 0 zeros. Fuck yeah. No, make it horizontal so it's really weird. See, it looks like it's flying now. It's a stabicorn. It's not rearing up because it's majestic. It's about to stab your face. What kind of unit is this? I don't know.
It is hilarious when you start to look and see what people have named themselves when you're doing like base missions in this game. Because yeah, it's all stupid shit like this. Like, yeah, we're the 0 zeros. It's not a unicorn, it's a sword horse.
Yeah, how many zeros in your unit? None.
That's a reminder of the fire unicorn thing from earlier. I didn't even put that together, but I also just found there's a second page of colors, so. How many zeros are in your unit, brother? I gotta tell you something. Alright.
0 zeros. The unit made up of other units.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. It's going to force me through tutorials.
Why?
Because even fucking 10 missions into the game, they're still introducing mechanics.
Of course they are. Why wouldn't they be? Why would you ever expect players to naturally unpack and unfold an experience or series of experiences? Why not? Why let players have fun? You know? Like, why?
Unit dispatched.
I love that they give a success probability of 92%. I think that they should just say that regardless of what it is. Let's use some XCOM math. I remember when there was this huge article about how XCOM math was accurate, and then they did a breakdown of how they arrived at that math, and it made you realize that it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because the guy's like, well, based on a seed and fed in information, and I like this article was trying to say how this is actually fair if you understand mathematics, and the whole article was basically anything is real if you fudge the numbers. It was just like, add a 11 here and a 17-15 and bingo, 95% chance to hit that misses, 9 times out of 10.
Before I do that, I need to customize the helicopter with the new equipment that we've not yet developed. Okay.
I just felt that like their math was essentially like the polling numbers for like North Koreans like elections. You know what I mean? Like it was just like 180% turned up, and you're like, I don't think that happened.
Yeah.
And so you're sitting there looking at like XCOM math, and I remember just testing it one time, and I played a mission 10 times, and the first guy I ran up to every time had a 95% chance to hit, and no matter what angle I took or what have you, he missed. And then people said, well, see, each mission has a seed which determines, and I said, railroad. Railroad. Does he have earring protection in, or
no?
What? As you know, a good pistol instructor should always stand forward of people who are using a pistol.
Yep.
And, oh, wow. Is he going to flag people to... Oh, flag him. Yeah, let's flag everyone with your pistol. Your loaded gun. Excellent instructor. Let's just... Yeah, okay, and pointing it at more people. Are you going to just point guns at people? Like, what? What in the cinnamon toast fuck is going on?
Pistol instruction. He got flagged by both of those guys.
Yeah, just no.
Revolver Man is berating a man for shooting his automatic like it's a revolver.
You will forget everything Hollywood taught you.
1911 stovepipe. At least they got that right. This jam brought to you by Kimber.
Engravings give you no tactical advantage whatsoever. There were some fancy.
I will say this:
He says on a non-engraved 1911.
There are two types of 1911 that are incredibly reliable.
Dude, you just took that guy's Kimber? You're like, fuck you. I'm taking your gold-plated Kimber, asshole. What are you
Kimber
gonna do
now
about
with
it?
flash rust. Now, like, I will admit gunsmiths do really dumb stuff when we're checking guns out. Like, the guy I learned gunsmithing under, if you said this revolver has bad timing, he would knock all the cartridges out of it, close the cylinder, look down the barrel, and pull the trigger 4 or 5 times. And check the timing. And everyone's like, oh my god! And he's like, I've been doing this for 50 years. You know, just, they're crazy people. But yeah, safety and firearms are something that are not optional. There's some things in this world that are dangerous once in the most final way. But when it comes down to 1911s, there's 2 kinds that are reliable. And I'm going to tell you that these are the most amazing, strangest things. The super tuned and polished ones that have been worn in just right are more reliable than anything in the world. More reliable than Glocks somehow, in defiance of good reason. Don't know why. The other one are the out-of-the-box ones that you can just buy that are dirt-ass cheap and should not be reliable. I bought an Arms Corps 1911 made in the Philippines for $350, new, and I put about 7,000 rounds through that gun, and I had 2 bad primers, and that was it. It just ran. Now, it rattled like a maraca, and it had the fit of somebody who had put that together in the dark, but it ran. It ran like a very clattery sewing machine, but it worked. The sights fell off of it once because they'd not cut the slide right, so like as time went on, they slowly just slid out one way and then out. I fixed
Like
that
they
by
do.
welding it. They were like, you could Novak cut this, and I was like, yeah, but that would be more expensive than the gun, so pass. And I just welded them back in.
Oh yeah, that's a majestic insignia. The 00.
0 I like that.
Development complete.
Could you imagine what kind of workplace you are in that your boss can just randomly hit you with rubber bullets while you're doing your job and you have to stand up and thank him?
It makes you wonder what working under Kojima's like when he has this as an ideation of what the ideal boss and hero is.
Yeah.
You know?
It really does. You know what? I did that to them, and then I'm going to berate them for sleeping on sentry duty. Dock their pay.
You know what I would do for this game is I would remix the whole soundtrack. I would remix the whole soundtrack from start to finish.
Okay.
Just from start to finish. Just to add some mood to it. Just add some pizzazz. One of the ones I would add is I
Yep,
would
bosses will
use-
do that. You meet some crazy people working in kitchens. That's true.
I have, like, no matter how shit my jobs have been, every story I have heard out of, like, kitchens, professional kitchens, trump anything I've got in terms of just sustained madness. Their stories
Dark
are
Star.
crazy.
Yeah. What's the music
Oh,
playing
what-
on the chopper? Uh, it's a version of the Muppet stain. It's not the normal Muppet stain. I'm impressed. Should have tossed the bodies over the board to feed the sharks. Yeah, I think, don't you get a game over if you toss them over? Or do you just get yelled at?
Probably that. We probably get yelled at. No, as far
Tired
as
of getting yelled at.
same. But I mean, this is America, and you get what you get. So, you know, there's that poster from Futurama. You got to do what you got to do.
Yes.
Well, there you go. Now as far as like if I had to remix the bass, I wouldn't play epic music. I would play like Ain't Got No Home by Clarence Henry or like Sea of Love by Phil Phillip and the Twilights. I'd go very 1950s with it. I'd just make it bizarre music that plays over the PA.
Mission accepted.
Yeah.
Like
whatever.
I would just make the pilot's soundtrack to where whenever he picks you up, you can't choose what's playing. The pilot has something bizarre. Like, you know, I've Got a Woman by Ray Charles, like
Oh, yeah.
cranking on. Yeah, it just rolls up.
Alright, this is going to be a pure violence mission.
Oh, as opposed to all of your gentle touches to this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, Silicon Soul says you should play the Long Danube.
The Long Danube's that's a classic one.
I hate that some of my deep fried music has become more exciting than some of the bass music, just from the perspective of it causes anxiety. Not that it's good, it causes anxiety. People are like, when's the next note? Why is this hanging so long? And I'm like, I'm not sorry for anything I do. God made me this way. Oh man, Rat Pack would be great. Like, ain't that a kick in the head just as you're rolling around? Hit him with some Dean Martin. That'd
Yeah.
be fantastic. Oh, cool. Uzi. Are we going to push it to the limit?
Uzi does it.
Uzi does it. That's another fun gun to have. Uzis are really easy to work on. The bolt is a giant block of steel that won't break, and the cover is thinner steel that you can bash with a rock. Uziel Gal was a smart guy. Now, I know a lot of people don't like them, but I think they're neat.
Yeah, they're neat. They're awful to shoot, but they're neat.
Why do you hate them? They're not awful. They're old.
The one that I shot was gassing my face up something fierce.
Oh yeah, they'll do that. I am not gonna lie. They'll do that. They'll do that all day. They run dirty. Yeah. Yeah, the full-size Uzi is a bit much, but yeah, the mini Uzi is about where they're best. The micro Uzi is not. The micro Uzi is basically saying, I want my arm to pinwheel.
The micro Uzi is a G18C with aspiration.
A micro Uzi is like, a micro Uzi is press for enemy, hold for aircraft. Your arm is gonna move. A micro Uzi is basically that joke, because a lot of people don't know this, but like in direct blowback firearms, guns that just are unmoderated by anything other than a spring, the smaller you make it, in terms of, you know, pistol caliber, the faster they run. So if you make a tiny little guy that doesn't have a lot of travel, the firing rate is apocalyptically high, and so the micro Uzi is just like, hey, you want to see a whole magazine go at once? You want to see it again? Because it's that quick. It like emptying a micro Uzi is the same equivalent of taking a whole box of ammunition and just throwing it at the ground. It's that quick. It's all out. There is no like letting your finger off the trigger. It's like, and it's gone. It's very, very quick.
Oh, he's driving away from me.
You know what? You know what makes snakes like travel around like Afghanistan really fun is
What?
if you just had like gospel music. And I mean, like, remember how Elvis cut that gospel album with Ray Charles?
Yes.
That one. Like, have that be Snake's favorite soundtrack for Afghanistan. Is it's just that, and everyone else complains about it. And he's like, shut up.
The
drive-
religious cult music from Far Cry 5.
That wasn't even good religious cult music, because as we determined, it's like barely a cult. It has no
Yeah.
good belief. It has no central understanding of hierarchy. It has no book that you can identify, because there's a vaguely Christianish looking Bible thing, but there's no like prophecy, there's no, you know, quotations from it really. It's just begin the reaping, and then like the metrosexual Ryan Reynolds comes out. You know, like there's nothing to it. And I found that offensive, because I made a fake cult that was way more in depth than that. And I realized that all you need is some really neat sounding stuff to write a fake crazy religious movement. All you have to do is just come up with scripture and things like that sound cool. And they couldn't be bothered. They just went with, let's go with something vague. And I'm like, why?
Because
Why?
they're
All
worried
you
about
had-
offending people.
Yeah, but all you have to do is read the Book of Revelations and then have somebody reading the Book of Revelations and then badly interpreting it and saying, oh, based on these signs, and I think this is the seal and this is what this means. And that would be way more believable. As like someone, you introduce the character as a false prophet who has merely interpreted the world going bad as the end times, and it's you trying to fight against people's fear and this person's grip over their lives, and that would be a lot more interesting in every which way, I think.
Alright, yep. No, 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 no. Fuck. Fuck.
He's just driving off. He's having a good time. Don't worry about it. Ah, yes. Hit it in the fuel door.
Well, you know, it's an armored fuel door on this one. Because it's still going to take 3 Carl Gustav rounds to kill a BMP.
Yeah, no. You could break a BMP with stairs. The only vehicle in the Soviet Union that was cheaper to fucking manufacture than the BMP was the MiG-21.
And that's only by volume.
Yeah. The MiG-21 was cheaper to make than the BMP by the end of its career. That's how cheap they ended up making them. Which is amazing. And then you see kind of how complex it is, and you realize it's not that good.
Ah, he's coming down here. Did I just stick this? Nope.
Pointman Frosty has some very good choices for
Nope.
soundtrack.
He's getting on the
Dean
Dishka.
Martin's Volare and Mambo Italiano.
Mambo
I think that would
Italiano
be-
is classy.
Hey, Mambo. Ooh, you know what? I have Spotify open. I can just play music. I would have probably gone with ZZ Top, but everyone likes ZZ Top.
Well, yeah. I mean, they've aged into that perfect age where they're classic, but they're classic in the way that everybody likes them.
Yeah,
Versus something like, you know, some of the lesser known 50s stuff where you can't get into it unless you're really in the mood.
I would definitely for this, I would have probably done Louis Prima. I think Louis Prima would work. Yeah, I just Louis Prima's Just a Gigolo goes fine with this work.
Yeah.
However, if we're doing ZZ Top, Tube Steak Boogie. One of the greatest guitar solo. Damn. I actually went to go see. ZZ Top live once.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this much. the guys were like, hey, you know, we're here all night and we have no one behind us. Would you mind if we really just let loose? And then I'm not sure if you ever wanted to say, man, I wish that song was 10 minutes long with guitar solos. But they did that. They were just like, hey, you know, LaGrange, let's have a 20-minute jam version of it. And you're like, this is great. Hell of a show.
I bet.
The best live show, though, I ever had that I went to was B.B. King's 80th birthday tour. That was an amazing show. I saw that in Colorado, and his 80th birthday tour show was amazing. Yoga Snake, that's a good one. He's like, I'm really trying to do kale. I'm really trying to, you know, a lot of kale smoothies. I'm trying to become a gentler creature. I knit a sweater for everyone at the base. That would be more terrifying than just punching people in the face, is saying I knit a sweater for everyone.
Yeah.
You've got other targets closing in. You can check their predicted route on your iDroid.
The map has been updated.
Thanks. You saved
You shut the fuck up. Let's lay down.
Just run away with a guy. Yeah, Madak, that's what I had in his show, was in between sets, because he was 80, he would tell stories about his tours, and it was great, because it's like, hey, here's 70 years of musician and 80 years of human being pouring out a lifetime of experience. And it was like an incredible show, because even at 80 years old, this guy filled the room with his voice. Like, if you closed your eyes, you would say this is a young person in their prime. Just powerful, powerful, powerful performance.
I could see that.
So, is this armor just rolling up the road
Yeah.
without support,
Uh-huh.
and is not alarmed that no one else on the radio net
Has
is
responded, or yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just when in doubt, floor it, right?
UC's about to explode. There it is.
Anyone else in chat have an amazing live show? I heard Rammstein's live shows are just like
I've
scary.
heard they're bonkers, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard they're scary. Like, oh, here comes the percussionist with a flamethrower.
Yes.
And you're like, what? Or, hey, they just blew up that building just to start the show. What? Yeah. Yeah, and I knew B.B. King had a pilot's license. He flew himself to gigs and a lot of other stuff. The guy was, like, incredibly talented. Pharisees says they saw Slash solo, and that was intense. Guar is always nuts. I'd believe that.
Yeah, Guar, there's no way Guar's not a nut show.
Well, it has to be. It's all about performance. Like, you don't last that long on just music. You have to have some showmanship.
Boss, need a little extra firepower? We spotted a Soviet
I've only gone and seen Laser Floyd. You know, Pink Floyd had long since stopped doing things by the time I started having interest in seeing shows. But yeah, Pink Floyd, I've done Laser Floyd a few times, where you just have the best sound system in the world and laser light show. That stuff is wild.
The guerrillas' offensive will be ending soon. Boss, there's still time left.
Oh, there's another truck coming.
Master Mayhem says the best concert they ever saw and the worst concert they ever saw on the same night. Cage the Elephant opened by having a tantrum on stage, and then Stone Temple Pilots crushed it.
Okay, yeah, I could see Stone Temple Pilots being a good show. Electric Six, I think I've talked about going to see them.
You should tell the Electric Six story. That's amazing. And I love Katyusha rails on, just BTRs. That seems fun.
Yeah.
Oh, and I hear Trans-Siberian Orchestra is fucking wild.
The map has been updated.
Yeah, Electric Six was certainly interesting. I saw them in a dive bar in Lawrence. Okay, I got time.
I've heard
They had
I've heard,
no energy initially.
Well, I heard Tom Waits is also a scary good show.
I believe that too. They had a fucking javelin, or is this a dragon?
It's a 148.
148's javelin, right?
FGM 148 Javelin. Thank you.
47 is the dragon.
What's funny is that all right, here's something chat probably doesn't know. I know you fully well know, but believe it or not, the Javelin, that computer system, the guidance system, was originally designed by Texas Instruments, the TI-83 calculator people.
Yep.
So if ever you think that calculator is not that powerful, remember Texas Instruments has other products. But no, tell your Electric Six story. That is wild.
Yeah, so they didn't have very much energy. They are pounding the pavement. They have been for 20 years at this point, right? This is St. Javelin, yes. So they're doing this every week over and over again. They were pretty worn out looking, and then they took a sabbatical halfway through and said, hey guys, we got to step in the back real fast. And then they came out and they had shit tons of energy.
Danger, danger, high voltage.
Yeah, and that's when they hit all their classics. They're like, oh yeah, we were saving our energy for the second half of the show to make it twice as good. It's a really good show. Really, really tiny venue, so I was like in their face. Afterwards, they invited everybody to go to IHOP with them because they had to get some food in them before they hit the road for the next show, which was in like Colorado. Yeah. Allegedly, in Detroit, I can target infantry with the javelin. I can lock up infantry with the javelin. Nice.
Wow. That seems unethical. Anyways.
Allegedly, in Detroit, they've done so many little shows at all the local venues that nobody will hire them anymore because they're trying to rotate people through. So they started performing under fake names. So they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we're Purple Power." And they're like, "Okay, what do you play? I don't know, like jazzy stuff." Sure, yeah, that sounds good. And then Electric Six shows up.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Just be like, no.
It very much in the idea of my favorite part of Blues Brothers.
We play both kinds of music, country and western.
Yeah. Okay, that thing's dead. Yes. Why were there 4 rockets?
Well, it's the special one. That's a good question.
I cannot. Oh, no, I can.
Oh god. Oh god. Why? Why? How? Something to come back to, huh? Oh, what have they been doing while they were away for a few seconds? Seeing what a javelin will shoot. Well, of course. We've been doing that.
Yeah.
Rockets go in stuff.
Rockets go in big stuff, good stuff.
They gave us the missile to shoot things deader with the rocket gun of shoot bang.
Shoot, bang, rocket gun. Alright, fire again, you baby back bitch. Come on. Come on, shoot me. Shoot me. Oh god, so that first round targeted an infantryman.
Detected. The map has been updated.
You mean we use the correct tool for the correct job?
Oh god, how do I... E. E is back up.
E for to pull yourself up. And then F for fall.
Just fucking die. How much 5.56 can a man absorb? That guy
In
could
Kojima's
absorb
world.
exactly one.
E for hernia.
Come on, shoot again. Shoot again. Shoot at me again.
One of the things that horrified me when I was doing historical research was the Canadian fur trappers, the French Canadian fur trappers, in the early Canadian settlements, when they would have to carry their boats overland to the next river,
Yeah.
because that's what they did. The most common cause of death for these guys was hernias.
Ugh.
Right. I was like, wow, like explosive hernias would kill these people. That's how heavy those boats were.
Please select a drop point. Supplies requested.
Yeah, that's fucking awful.
Well, you got this taunt going around here. And it seems like, of course, you have, like, Korolev Cross with those missiles coming in.
Yeah. Well, naturally. What else would you do with it?
Oh, why not?
Why do I still have that on my back?
Well, shut up. Scoliosis snake.
Alright, I gotta go back and get my, Carl Gustav now. The 3-hit wonder.
Yeah. You
Hey,
know what I
buddy.
would really like is the M202A1
Flash?
Flash.
Yes.
That would be cool.
I would like to be able to stand on this ridge and set people on fire on that ridge.
Well, have I a product for you?
So there's stories about very bored, very brave people in Vietnam cutting the wires on the igniters on those rockets and swapping them around with law rockets because they were both 66 millimeter. And that was the
Right.
same rocket base, so you could have a half and half flash, or you could have a law tube with a fire rocket in it.
Why not? And, you know, it just, why not? Now, one of the things I remember was I spoke with a U.S. Navy veteran when I was in college, and he was a World War II veteran and a Korean War veteran. And in World War II, he was on PT boats, which means he was on the extreme young end of the U.S. Navy, because usually those boats were younger people.
Yeah.
And he explained to me, and this guy just ancient dude, cataracts in both eyes, but had that eerie way of looking straight at you despite being blind. You know, just an amazing depth of eye. You know what I mean? Just saw right through you. And it was like, holy crap, like just an amazing presence, even at a very old and feeble age. So like still super sharp, super with it. And fully aware of everything going on in the world. Had a MySpace account back when that was relevant, and was, you know, just active and doing stuff. But I asked him about his time on PT boats, and I asked about, like, you know, man, that was crazy. How did you guys, like, handle a lot of things? And eventually we came to the question of, like, what do you do in your downtime? Now, naturally, on a small speedboat going across the ocean at way too fast, you have limited options for entertainment.
Yes.
You can't just like put on a record, for instance. And reading is fairly hard. So he told me about something they used to do because the torpedoes were fairly defective. And he described what was called a torpedo juice cocktail. And I am not recommending this to anyone, but in short, he said you drain the torpedo juice, which is alcohol, pure alcohol, out of the torpedo, and you run it through a U.S. Navy bread ration, long ways, to filter it, and then from that you add the U.S. Navy crushed pineapple ration and shake it. And so the torpedo juice cocktail was born. And they said that, you know, many a patrol was spent with the engines full on, just getting a tan and kicking back torpedo juice cocktail. Captain Murphy says, I too knew an ancient Navy vet that drank the juice. He also said that he was on a battleship in the Korean War, and he said that on the battleship they perfected Navy coffee. So I asked him how you make Navy coffee, and the answer was horrifying. He said, you know that basket in the percolator, the giant percolator? And I said, yeah. And he goes, fill that to the top and scrape it off with a ruler, and then make the coffee. And I said, what about emptying the old coffee out? And he goes, no.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, our ship was finished in 1941. We had the same pot of coffee from then. Just, he said the inside of it had about an inch thick layer of tannin that had blacked the whole percolator. You gotta make that coffee so strong that when you have one sip, you either break out in sweat, or your hands start shaking uncontrollably, or you shit with the force of a volcano exploding.
Engineering, they were known for doing recursive coffee, what they called it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Where
no.
you make coffee with brewed coffee.
Could you imagine having a cup of coffee mid-Korean War, 52, and the coffee on the burner has been in cycles since 1941?
Yeah. Well, it's like the companies that will do never-ending soup because they'll save the end of the soup broth.
That's kind of cool, I think. Like the never-ending soup or the perma-grease. I think that's kind of a cool thing. I think that's kind of cool.
The other people who did it, and not many people know this, was the British Army with their rum rations. Is they had giant casks that when those got full, or when those got empty, they'd order a new rum, and they'd just add it without any regard for flavor profile or anything. So
I'm sure that's fun.
Your tot of rum was at least partially made up of rum that, Nelson's boys had drank. Not very much, but we're talking atoms of it, but
still, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I remember, God, there's a lot of really wild little things like that. Now, if you're ever out there looking for something neat for your house, like something to collect, if you can go find one or a reproduction one, there are these clay or earthenware jugs. They're ceramic, and they're called SRD. They will be marked by SRD on there, like S decimal R decimal D decimal, and that stands for Supply Reserve Depot. And these were the British rum casks that were handed to the front to issue out the rum ration in World War I as part of the Quartermaster Corps. And what's funny is that the troops in the trenches at first called them Sardies, but by the end of the war, they said SRD stands for Seldom Reaches Destination. And they're still digging these up all over Belgium and France. SRD Depot rum casks, because there
Okay.
are so many of them. They piled up everywhere. But
Yeah.
thank you for showing everyone your trucking prowess in yet another game.
Hippie truck achieved. Yep, just winch it. Wait, wrong game. Yeah, I know.
Enemy presence detected.
Don't worry about me.
Map has been updated.
Running away from my mistakes is my preferred method of dealing with them. I think there's a truck up here I can take.
Oh, another one. Cool.
Yep,
I
don't
just
mind me.
remember that, like, talking with that Navy guy, he told stories of naval operations that will never make a history book, but they're hilarious.
There's...
Then I
forget what it's called, but there's a wonderful memoir that is the captain of PT-114, which was in the same squadron as JFK, and he talks about all the crazy shit they got up to as PT boat captains in the era.
Oh yeah, those
one-
people were insane.
Yeah, one that stands out to me is they were trying to, they were getting involved in Guadalcanal. And they're in the middle of all these naval fucking slugfests between cruisers and battleships. And they're a PT boat with, like, no capability to really do anything because the torpedoes are so awful. So finally, the commander of the little flotilla says, "Make yourself useful and lay down some smoke so they stop poking holes in my ships." And they had never been instructed on use of the smoke launcher. So for the last, like, year and a half, anytime they were doing their normal stores, they'd turn the little knob on the smoke canister to see if it emitted smoke, and when it did, they're like, okay, I guess it works. You're not supposed to do that because it gums up the valve. So they call for smoke, and they turn the valve all the way open, and it's completely gummed over. Nothing comes out. And his chief of boat looks at him and goes, what do we do? And he says, well, Commander wants smoke, so they broke it open with a fire axe.
Yeah. I remember that when we were doing the Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, I made Smonk Fleet,
Yes.
where I said, all coal, all the time. Roll coal. All coal, all the time. And I remember I deployed my forces in battle line, and you couldn't tell there was more than one ship there. Because
Yes.
it was just a haze.
Yep.
It affected my gunnery quite badly. But they said that 6 smokestacks on a ship was too many. I disagree.
Yeah, old Smokey was a good run.
The Silicosis Navy. You just see, like, the guys come off those ships, and the guy's got, like, goggle marks around his eyes where everything's clean and everything else is just soot.
There's
The Great Black Fleet. They just show up, coal-coked and just complete ash. They drop the anchor into the water, and fish float up.
Alright. Oh, you just
I
drive
spoke-
around?
I spoke with one of the former engine crewmen on the USS Texas, and he said that they had that engine up to 72 RPM once. And I said, what was that like? And they said that it rattled the fillings out of a guy's head.
That
I
I
was
could
like-
believe as well.
I was like, that is horrifying. They said that when they turned that ship in, the Navy Yard was horrified when they decommissioned it, because they said you could not read a single label or single placard or instruction in the engine room. It had all been just worn smooth. So they were like, What? Why? Like, why? Why can you not read any of these things? And it's like, age. Well, how do you know how it works? Feel. Ah, yes. Dushka. Very precise weapon for... Ah, yeah. You wonder how that metal got in his head.
I tried to say that.
I don't think you did. I think you applied maximal violence of action and were like, we get what we get.
Hey, violence is a throttle, and sometimes you gotta turn the throttle all the way up.
And 72 revolutions per minute, double halo.
On an engine
Look at
that
this.
large.
I believe it's rated for 60 something. I think they just went more. And some old hat down there was like, why not? The worst they can do is break it. When you have pistons that weigh more than a house flying around, it's like scary.
Yeah, even at what we would consider a low speed like that. Why is he just chilling in there?
Hanging out, you know. He's like, what you
is.
thinking about? And he's like, worse stuff.
He's probably thinking about how many fucking porta-johns there are in that base. 5. One of them's outside the wire. There's 6. 2 of them are outside the wire.
Well, I mean, you gotta really want to shit.
We call that the battle buddy shitter.
I think
if he screams, you get like 2 seconds warning before the first round comes through the door.
If I had a shitter outside the wire and someone needed to go take a shit, I would tie rappelling rope around their waist. And if I heard gunfire, I would just activate the winch to pull them back in. I'm not going out there.
Yeah. Especially in Afghanistan in this fucking era, like you've got Mujahideen creeping around, fucking slitting people's throats.
Clouds approaching.
No, you put that shitter outside the wire because that's where it goes, I guess.
One smells bad, so fuck him, I guess.
Yeah, they're like, well, he poops really loud and I don't like it.
That sounds like something that would happen in
yeah.
Catch-22.
Yeah, that sounds like a Catch-22 moment.
What if you used the kidnapper balloons on a porta-john while someone was in there? Unfortunately, they are immovable. Text, that's how you retrieve a sideways porta-john in a horrific smell. But did they die?
Yeah. Yeah, we need a mod. We need to float that porta-john. We need to steal them. Uh-oh.
Boss, I have a report from the intel team. The targets are now on the move. I've sent their predicted route to
So you're rolling down the road, trying to loosen your load, and all that good stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. In your
And then-
single, unescorted...
BTR plus Katyusha, and
Yeah.
you're rolling down the road doing your thing, and then it explodes.
Yeah.
And then you just keep going? You're like, hey, there's a burning carcass of a vehicle. Better drive toward it.
Well, you know,
Mr. Train.
they only do that because it explodes into chunks that are smaller than we were able to perceive.
Chonk.
Chonk. We've got two Katushka BMPs.
Stand by. 1. Hey, he hit the brakes.
So that's what it takes to stop one. It's watching someone die in front of you.
Well, no, maybe he just dropped his, like, coffee, you know? Like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
all over the place.
You know, the fun thing is he did the exact wrong thing. In an ambush,
Keep
there's
rolling.
one rule. Drive or drive.
The map has been updated.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the guy had to turn the page to get to that part of the manual.
Yeah.
He's like, hold on, when in ambush, and then you hear that page flip, and he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Under no circumstances ever do you stop. No. In the truck. In the trunk, please. Trunk. Alright.
Just keep rolling. It's a truck full of ammo. It's perfectly safe to drive over stuff. Pretzel Bomber. When ambush, stop. Flips page for nothing. Leave the area as quickly as possible.
Yes.
That sounds like an FM guide right there.
It really does.
I remember the FM guide I had for the Garand was great because it was like, here are the list of tools that you don't have that you should not under any circumstances use if untrained to work on this gun. And I'm like, well, too late, I already bought them. Talk about a gun that is both fun and infuriating to work on. You're like, wow, everything's made out of all the steel known to man. That's where, like, gunsmithing and blacksmithing intersect. The Garand. It's like, op rod's bent. Yep, well, hammer. What's crazy is, like, a lot of those Garands are still good.
Oh, yeah.
The barrels will be shot out or whatever, but those receivers, I've seen Garand receivers with like 200,000-300,000 rounds on them, and they're fine. They're perfectly fine.
Enemy presence detected. The map has been updated.
And you're not wrong, Pretzel Bomber. As long as the Soviet truck is actively running, it'll make it.
Yeah. Come on. Come on. No, don't lock on the fucking guard tower.
Why not? That's cool. That's a Canon Films staple. The Canon Films staple is to have, you know, the guard tower explode, and then the guy has to fly out of it on fire, like flailing his arms the whole time. And Bill, if you ever want to shoot a Garand, let me know. I know a guy.
Yeah, he does.
Let's see. Mr. Tex. Springfield Trapdoor is Snyder Infield. Oh, wow. Talk about two guns I would not own. Trapdoor Springfields are okay until you realize that they're a pain in the ass, and they're cool as conversions, but you have to use appropriate cartridges for them, and then they have no extraction, so... Snyder Infields are neat, but they're intricate, and finding replacement parts requires, you know, like a blacksmith, which they're cool. They're really accurate, too. But if you're going for, like, breech-fired and weird and single shot, Martini Henry all day. Martini Henry all day. Long lever Martini Henry all day. Nothing screams weirdo like pith helmet and paper patched bullets.
Yep, and once you figure out how to patch your own rounds, Martini Henry is really quite economical for what it is.
Oh yeah, yeah. For hand loads.
Yes.
5.77 Martini Henry. Now, if you're doing it absolutely accurate, you're gonna hate that. You're gonna hate that so much because you'll be like, wow, I need to use a rolled foil. Don't do that. Use the later cartridges.
Yeah.
Opinion on the Ruger number 1. Oh man, those are solid rifles. The problem is they don't make many of them. Your Ruger rolling block or number 1 are just tough as hell. Just tough as hell. Tough as hell actions. You can't break them. The problem is they make like 20 a year, and in calibers no one cares about. So they'll be like, oh yeah, here's our 243 number 1. I'm like, why? I want like a 45-70. Most people do as well. That's why they buy Spencers and everything else. Remington rolling block reproductions. Just that. There's a reason why people like that, and they never ever make it. They're like, oh, it's a 9.3 by 78 or whatever, and you just go, why?
Yeah. You've got stuff like the Henry and Winchester and all them will make, well, I suppose it's Uberti making a clone of the Winchester. We'll make them in some modern rounds, which I can kind of understand. And then there's stuff that's kind of half and half, like 45 Long Colt Winchester 1873 never existed, but it's a good mix of period things that fits in well.
Well, sure. Well, yeah, because you can, if you want to do it accurately, you're going to go with 4440. Right?
Yeah.
And then, sure. But, no, like, there's 8 guys who buy that in the whole U.S.
Yeah. And if you're going to do something like cowboy action shooting, it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah, to have a 45 Long Colt or, hell, Ruger Vaquero and 357 Magnum and then, like, a lever gun in the same. Simple. And you can use 38 in both for economy.
So how many mounted Dishkas do you need to steal before the CIA labels you communist insurgency on principle alone? I'm already a domestic terrorist, according to them. They attacked my base at the start of the game. And
Oh, that's right.
I'm just selling those on the black market, so I'm actually even worse than that. Warden or Collie? We did Warden last time we played, right?
I think when we played Foxhole. Now, when we played Foxhole, I was logistics guy, and I went around being a logistics guy, and I just more or less was like, well, someone's got to drive this truck, and that was fun for like an hour. And then I had a 14-year-old try to explain to me what Karl von Clausewitz was getting at, and so I listened to a Milsim lecture from 14-year-old screeching over the microphone, as you do in Voyop in that game.
Yeah.
And that was great because I didn't yell at him or say he was wrong. I was like, oh, well, that's interesting, or oh, tell me more. And so I listened to this person just walk around, telling the world how war worked, and I was like, man, this is amazing. And then he got shot in the face and started screaming as he died, but like mad, like, how could you guys let me get that? And we didn't help him. So we got the full butter bar experience.
Jesus fucking Christ.
What?
We gotta do another combat deployment tutorial.
Well, you have to. I mean, it obviously, if play a game? Why?
I swear to God, he does this as punishment for all the people that said his cutscenes lasted too long. He's like, you think that was annoying? I'll be fucking annoying.
If you wanna see how Kojima reacts to criticism, it's brilliant and it's insane because someone will say your cutscenes are too long, or your story's too obtuse, and he does the equivalent of, like, if someone complained that Tex Talks Battletech was too fucking long, what if I responded by making a 10-hour episode?
Yeah.
That's what he does. It's like, well, this cutscene's too long, and it's like, no, we need to have a monkey in a diaper drink cola as a character with a lot of screen time.
Yes. Well, and then he would do interviews. talk about how he did that because of all of the... Oh, I just hit that. Meat's back on the menus, boys.
Hey man, mutton. Opinion on the Calico. I think they're neat. I hate their magazines. I've never seen a helical magazine I liked, and I never saw one in good repair or maintenance.
Yeah.
They're just like Beta C mags. I see someone who has Beta C mags, and I'm like, have you ever gotten all the rounds out of it? Most of them will grimace and go sometimes.
Not consistently enough to trust it.
No, Beta C mag is like a Jack in the Box that just has the noisemaker and no spring. So it's do
Yep.
do 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 do, and then you're waiting for it. No.
My grandfather was in World War II. Never wanted mutton again. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And while I would honestly make a 10-hour series on Tex Talks BattleTech, thankfully God has made sure that I do not have the budget for it, because I probably would have.
Why do I have an IV in my arm?
You have an IV in your robot arm.
Yeah.
It looks like
All right, guys. 3 episodes in, we're 7% through the game.
whoo boy. This is gonna be like your Traveler game. It's gonna be like over a year.
Yeah.
20. By the way, we finished that. 20 episodes of Traveler. 20.
Yep. You guys will see it sometime, and then you can tell me what an awful DM I am.
It's a fine game.
Tex Talks BattleTech, uncut and unedited.
I would never make a 10-hour film. I would be like, this is too much. At hour 4, I would be like, what do I call this film? Hemorrhoids? Because you're going to get them. No.
Thoughts on the show Shaw? Was the hate unjustified?
Well,
Sort of.
no. I think the show is terrible, because if you have non-interchangeable parts in the 20th century, you fucked up.
At the same time, though, it's the first era. It's the first iteration of all that kind
There
of
are
shit.
plenty of other people who got it right the first time.
That's fine.
The show is like saying, hey, I made a pair of shoes, and one's a size 13 and one's a size 9, and it's a heel. And you're like, this doesn't seem right. And then the next box contains something else, and it has the same name.
All right, but what were its competitors, and were they doing it better?
Madsen.
Okay, Madsen had its own issues.
Correct, but they still use it.
They used the upgraded, refined version that got 40 years of R&D.
Because it was worth it.
Yeah, I won't argue that it was a dead-end design, but I think given what they were working with, they did fine with the show shot. Now the 30-06 conversion, absolute trash.
There were a lot of bad ideas with it. The BAR, the Madsen, God, 0815,
BAR
the light
was
one without
3
the
or
lot
4 years later.
3 or 4 years does not matter much in the world of guns.
It does when you're talking World War One.
True, but we never issued the BAR to units that saw a lot of active combat, so that was more our entry of the war. If we entered earlier, we would have, probably, but it would have been a less refined version. However, he was playing with the idea as early as, I believe, 1911-ish. I will stand on the show was a great idea with terrible execution. I like the idea in design principle. I just don't think that it's something that would be sound.
I think it was exactly what it needed to be at the time. It was...
When you look at the options they had, like a Hotchkiss, where it's like, you need to grease the bullets that have to sit on the special plate that has to get fed in exactly right or I break.
Yeah.
It's better than that. Yes, it's much better than that. But in terms of like a reliable firearm that achieves its aim, no.
So, anyway, we need to hop off. We got Cooking on the Rim coming up here in 15 minutes. So,
Wish them well and hope that they do well. It's RimWorld. Surely nothing poor will happen.
the Rim is a forgiving place.
Yeah, especially when you play it with the Void.
Yeah, well, at some point we'll have to do a cursed playlist.
I agree. Well, there's a lot of there's plugins for Twitch.
Yeah, there is, isn't there?
Yes, there is. Yes, there be. So, guys, thank you for joining us, guys and gals. AI masquerading as both, trying to destroy us. Whatever you do, whoever you love, be nice to each other, and thank you for watching.
Take it easy, guys. Stay safe.
Is everyone happy after some technical difficulties?
Speaking.